Celoman Boxing. Like, subscribe, comment. So, this Saturday, Tszyu versus Bala, Brian Mendoza. Strengths, weaknesses, and keys to victory. We're going to put the spotlight on it. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Celoman Boxing. Blessings in the name of Jesus. So today we're looking at the fight on Showtime Boxing in Australia. Tszyu versus Bala, Brian Mendoza. This should be a great fight. I know they probably have Tszyu as the favorite by a significant margin, but to me this is a legitimate 50-50 fight. Both guys are great fighters. Both do a lot of good things and both do not so good things. Let's look at Tszyu to start it off. Tszyu, when you look at him, there's not a lot of bells and whistles to his style. He has a rough, rugged style. He's very physical in the ring. He's very strong. And when you look at him, you don't see a lot of sophistication, right? It's not like you're watching Floyd Mayweather or Gary Russell Jr., one of the more refined pugilists. You're looking at a very rough and tumble guy. But I think that's what catches people off guard, because even though he's very physical, he's very rugged in there, he's very savvy. I can tell just by watching Tszyu, as I look at his strengths, you can tell he admires Canelo Alvarez, because he does the same things. At least he tries to. For example, Tszyu will come in with his hands real high, right? Shuffling forward. And as soon as he gets in range, he kind of presents a false target to you. And as soon as his opponent commits and attacks, he just rolls. Boom, comes back with a right uppercut, bam, bam, bam. He throws combinations. So if you're not paying attention, if you fall for the bait and you go for the false target that Tszyu presents, coming in with his hands up, not doing too much yet, doesn't have a big active guard, you can get hit with big shots. That's what he did to Tony Harrison. He did it all night. That's one of his strengths. He's a decent counterpuncher. He doesn't look like much, but once he's mid-range, he will roll, he'll pull, and come back with 2 or 3 shots and get you. What else does Tszyu do good? When it comes to the basics, Tszyu has an excellent 1-2. When it comes to high-level boxing, you don't need to master everything. You just need to get the basics right. And one of the basics that Tszyu has really gotten down pat is the 1-2. He knocked out Carlos Ocampo. Well, that started the path to the knockout versus Carlos Ocampo. That beautiful 1-2. He came in range, and Carlos Ocampo's, his hands were out here. Tszyu just exploded, 1-2. And he hurt Ocampo and almost knocked him out. So Tszyu, he's very physical. He also manipulates the person's guard. If you stand in front of Tszyu with your hands up, he's just gonna pick you apart. He's gonna go to the body. He's gonna throw some throwaway shots. He's gonna go around your guard and just beat you up. Even if you try to move away, he'll use his arm to frame you. So Tszyu, he's very physical, but he does have some shortcomings. On to Brian Mendoza. Brian Mendoza, I love his story. He lost to Jesus Ramos, and he's kind of redeeming his career and coming back like a boogeyman in the 154-pound division. He knocked out Jason Rosario. Then he knocked out Sebastian Fundora, giving him his first loss by knockout. That's significant, and Brian Mendoza has some great momentum behind him. So what does he do well? He has a good, slick style. So he knows how to move his head. He knows how to move his feet, so he'll move around the ring. He's very slick with his style. And one of his greatest strengths is Bala. Brian Mendoza knows how to hit you with shots that you do not see. He's very conniving. He's very sly in the way he sets up his offense. When he was fighting Jason Rosario, that's what he did. He hurt Jason Rosario early in the fight, boom, with a uppercut to the body that dropped him. And he just kind of hypnotized Jason Rosario with his left hand. A jab, he would roll, come back with a left hook, jab, jab, jab to the body. So as soon as Jason Rosario was focused on defending his body and defending the left hook upstairs, Brian Mendoza caught him with a picture-perfect right uppercut that knocked him out. Jason Rosario was actually like this after he got hit with the shot. He was like dapping, but it's how he set it up. He hypnotized Jason Rosario, Mendoza that is, with a left hand going to jab the body. And as Jason Rosario went to block the left hand coming down, Mendoza turned that left hand into an uppercut and caught him with a picture-perfect shot that knocked him out. He did the same thing to Sebastian Fundora. They were having a back and forth fight, and he got in range, mid-range. He feinted a jab to the body. Fundora went to block the jab to the body. He turned that jab into a left hook and caught him and finished up with like a right hand left hook, and that was all she wrote. So Brian Mendoza, he has a lot of knockouts, and he has some significant knockouts, but it's not so much his power, it's his IQ. It's how he sets it up. He's very good at hiding his shots. So he has that slick style. Now on to weaknesses. Tszyu, his weakness, I would say, is Tszyu is a bit passive. He comes in range, he kind of puts pressure on you, he puts mental pressure on you by kind of coming into range, so you kind of get flustered and say to yourself, man, I gotta hit this guy with something. As soon as you commit, he explodes. But with that being said, when you're that passive and you're waiting for your opponent to commit before you explode with your offense, you're letting them dictate the pace of the fight. That can be a weakness, because if you're allowing someone to be first, they can get shots off very well, especially when you're waiting to counter. For example, Tszyu likes to roll and come back with the right hand. But there are ways to negate that, and if he's too repetitive with his strategy to set up his offense by countering, a good fighter like Mendoza, who's very fast, can capitalize on it by committing to not just one but two shots, or feinting one shot and coming back with three shots. And because what happens is when you roll or you pull and you come back with your offense, it takes a half a second to do that. Roll, right hand, right? Roll, right hand, okay? Slip, left hook. It takes a half a second for you to come back with your offense. So in order for your opposition to exploit that, all they have to do is throw combinations, because their combination punching will get there before your counter shot. Just like when Tszyu fought Terrell Gausha. That's how Terrell Gausha knocked him down. Yes, Tszyu won the fight, but Terrell Gausha knocked him down because Terrell feinted a jab. And once Tszyu saw the jab coming, Tszyu pulled back a little bit and was coming back with his right hand. But Terrell Gausha never really intended to throw the jab. He was looking for the right hand. So when Terrell Gausha feinted the jab and Tszyu pulled to come back with his right hand, Terrell Gausha simply, after the feint, followed up with a right hand, and his right hand got there first and knocked down Tszyu. So guess what? If Tszyu is too overconfident and he goes in there trying to counter mid-range, but he's fighting Mendoza, who has a high IQ, it could spell trouble for him. All right. Another weakness, the main weakness of Tszyu is his defense. Once he gets in a firefight, his defense goes out the window. His hands are down and he's swinging. His punches get wide, they get fat. And if he's fighting a decent counterpuncher, they can capitalize on that weakness. If his opponent is throwing short shots on the inside, mid-range, they can get there before Tim Tszyu's big, hard, wide shots. Okay? Now, Brian Mendoza, his weaknesses. Like we mentioned, he has a slick style. So I think the initial weakness that he has is Brian Mendoza fights with his hands completely down. And we all know fighters like Yuriorkis Gamboa, initially, early in their career, they have good defense, good head movement, good slickness, but his hands are always down. So sometimes it puts him in harm's way. In addition to his hands being down, Brian Mendoza can get in a mode where he's moving his head too much, right? And moving your head in and of itself is not a weakness. But what Brian Mendoza does sometimes, he moves his head to the point where he's putting himself out of position. So he might slip, but his head is completely turned, his body's turned, so he can't really sometimes even see the punch, but he's not in position to come back with a punch. Okay, that sort of behavior in the ring will get you hurt. I saw Jason Rosario catch him with a great right hand by him slipping too much or slipping too far, putting himself out of position. The other major flaw that Mendoza has is Mendoza will get in a posture. If you pressure him, and we saw this in the Jesus Ramos fight, we saw this in the Sebastian Fundora fight, if you pressure him, he has a tendency to cover up, okay, and kind of wait till the storm passes and wait till he can think about a response in order to engage his opponent. You can't do that against Tim Tszyu, man. I mean, that's a weakness, because if the fighter that you're fighting, if they're pressuring you and you cover up like that, they can peel your hand away and hit you around the guard. They can hit you to the body. They can hit you uppercuts. And that's a real danger, especially when you're fighting someone with power like Tim Tszyu. So let's get to keys to victory. First of all, Tim Tszyu, his keys to victory, he needs to put pressure on Mendoza, man. He needs to put a whole lot of pressure. It doesn't necessarily have to be physical pressure where he's throwing a lot of punches, but he needs to stay in Mendoza's face. He needs to feint, and he needs to use his jab. And he needs to apply mental pressure to Mendoza. He needs to go to the body. He wants to get Mendoza in that posture where he's covering up, because Tim Tszyu can peel his hand away and hit him with shots. Tim Tszyu can go to the body very well. Tim Tszyu, once you put up the high guard, Tim Tszyu will frame you with his forearm to keep you in place. He'll go around the guard. He'll go to the body. He changes levels very well. Tim Tszyu will throw the hard, straight jab to the body and then come upstairs with the right hand. So if he does that, after a few rounds, Mendoza can be broken down, and then he may be stopped. I mean, I don't know. But that's what Tim Tszyu needs to do. Another thing Tim Tszyu needs to do to win, he needs to cut off the ring. He can't follow Mendoza. Mendoza has decent foot movement. He can't follow him. He has to cut off the ring. Step side to side. Basic boxing steps will get you far. That's what Tim Tszyu needs to do. Mendoza, he needs to throw combinations. Tim Tszyu likes to come forward with that high guard and entice a committed shot, so he can counter you. Mendoza needs to throw combinations. Don't just throw a jab. If you're gonna throw 1-2-1, finish with the jab, so that when Tim Tszyu rolls to come back, when he rolls to come back with his shot, he's meeting 2 or 3 shots. Another thing Mendoza needs to do in order to win, Tim Tszyu likes to come forward with his hands high, kind of enticing, waiting to counter, putting pressure. Another great strategy that Mendoza can employ to win is he needs to use his lead hand. He doesn't have to commit and throw a hard jab with everyone that he throws, but just fence with the jab. Bam, bam, bam. Use the jab, kind of stiff arm Tszyu sometimes. Make him think, right? Because if you don't give him a committed punch, then he won't be able to counter as he would like. Use the jab to keep him off guard. Kind of like what Dimitri Bivol did to Canelo. He negated a lot of Canelo's counter punching, a lot of Canelo's offense by constantly keeping a jab in Canelo's face. It wasn't necessarily a hard jab, but just a jab that controls distance, a jab that kept Canelo guessing. Mendoza needs to do that because it will negate the counter punching of Tszyu, and Mendoza needs to feint and land one of those big shots. Tszyu has shown that he has a good chin. He can take a punch, but anyone can be knocked out. If Tszyu hits Mendoza with a punch and gets wild and starts swinging for the fences, Mendoza, if he can have the presence of mind and stay calm, he may be able to land one of those one-hitter quitters that he's been landing lately, and it may be an early night. To me, this is legitimately a 50-50 fight. I think whoever has the best game plan, whoever can execute their strategy first, is going to be the winner. Both have shown that they can rally and come back in fights even after being hurt, even after being down. So I am looking forward to this fight. Let me know who you think is going to win. Because it's in Australia, because of the momentum that Tszyu has, I think Tszyu may edge it out, especially if he hurts Mendoza late or early. But Mendoza is by no means should be counted out. He shouldn't be counted out in this fight because he is a live dog, and there's no telling what he can do considering he just knocked out Sebastian Fundora. So let me know what you think in the comments. Tell me who you think is going to win. Don't just give me your opinion. Break it down. Tell me what both guys need to do to win. And I am as excited as you are, hopefully, for this fight. God willing, I'm going to be watching it. For now, that's the Salaman Boxing Spotlight on the Matter. Blessings.